Did you know that among hospital leaders, there is a silent and a debatable understanding or a pattern that one of the common problems in hospital claims processing are doctors? Well, of course, not all doctors. So by the end of this video, you will discover why many doctors seem to be one of the most common problem in claims processing. At the same time, you will discover how to prevent this from happening in your hospital. First, I want to tell you, I am married to a doctor. Most of my friends are doctors. I mean no disrespect. So, before some of you will react or probably get mad, now there is a deeper reason behind this. So, doctors are the pillars of health, but doctors were never taught the concept of Philhealth and claims processing. So the health industry in our country sees our doctors as 80% healer and 20% something else. So I have been saying this during my time in Philhealth. Philhealth concepts are not taught in medical school and they are not taught in residency training. Now, imagine the sad state. Let us say there are 1,000 resident doctors who will graduate every year in the country. This means you have 1,000 new medical consultants who are ignorant in Philhealth concepts every year. Now, one of these consultants gets affiliated in your hospital, so there is a high probability that many or some of them will create mistakes in billing, mistakes in the diagnosis, commit overutilization or underutilization. Okay. Pretty sure some of them will create violations like upcasing in hospital claims, and I'm pretty sure some of them will not or will rather forget their accreditation. Now, do you agree with me? So, who among the hospitals gets the lucky doctor? Now, unfortunately, even hospitals do not prioritize teaching their old and their new doctors. So, the three common reasons why doctors end up as problems in Philhealth claims processing are the following. Number one, poor awareness on Philhealth rules and concept. So in my 20 years in claims processing, Philhealth rules and Philhealth concept becomes appealing to doctors when they end up becoming medical directors, administrators, now chief of clinic, probably hospital owners, be it board member, department chair, or an officer in the hospital. For example, recently I got a call. A few doctors were strangely interested talking to me on Philhealth topics. Now, after an hour, I discovered some of them have legal problems with Philhealth. Sad, isn't it? Now, for doctors who are purely clinicians, Philhealth topics are not that appealing to them. So, most of them do not read rules. If the hospital calls for a meeting about problems in Philhealth claims, the attendance is not so significant. So, as a result, hospitals cannot properly execute Philhealth rules in claims processing. So, examples are claims due to, or rather denied due to the standard of care, Okay, claims denied due to single period of confinement, or claims denied due to doctor is not accredited. Now, other issues or problems are on the upcasing of claims or offenses related to the Philippine National Formulary. So, the next reason is poor awareness on billing process. So, the lack of knowledge on hospital billing process leads to the delay and it leads to the conflict in processing. So, the smooth flow in billing process goes like this. Okay. The doctor discharges the patient. The final diagnosis is written on the chart. The diagnosis is converted into an ICD-10 code. And the codes are, it determines the benefit package of the patient. So, the billing, or rather the billing statement is generated and the patient pays the excess or the out-of-pocket. Everything is smooth. Do you agree? Now, if your doctors have poor knowledge on billing processes, the following will occur. So the doctor discharges the patient, but there is no final diagnosis. So this delays everything. Okay? So the doctor discharges the patient, but the final diagnosis does not match the clinical management. So, Philhealth will see this as fraud, and this will now create additional problem or delay in billing process. So, let us say that the bill was generated and the patient paid out of pocket. The doctor, for some reason, alters the diagnosis. This creates a total rework. Everything must be reprocessed. So it now affects the nurse station, the medical records, the cashier, and the claims office. So, if these are daily routine in your hospital, I'm pretty sure both the patients and the hospital staff are not happy. So the third reason is shortcut in documentation. So don't get me wrong. Everybody loves shortcut. So this includes doctors. So shortcut is basically achieving something more easily than the usual method. So doctors love to shortcut the documentation in the clinical chart, resulting in incomplete information. So, for example, the patient has been admitted for 3 days and the chart has no chief complaint. The history is incomplete, the physical exam was incomplete or not done, and there's no admitting diagnosis. So, there are times the signs and symptoms cannot actually justify the reason for admission because the information is either incomplete or incorrect. So, doctor's management cannot justify the final diagnosis simply because the information is again incomplete or incorrect. So now this leads to wherein the information in claim form 4 is also incomplete. So, this is what I love the most. There is no signature. There is no professional fee. And again, there is no final diagnosis. Now, these are minor issues for the doctors, especially those doctors who have minimal understanding on Philhealth rules. However, for the hospital claims processor or the billing processor, all of these will lead to a delay in the medical records and in the billing section. If uncorrected, this will result in the denial or the return of the claim, and the hospital ends up with no money. So, next, the signing document. Doctors do not actually read before they sign. So this is another example of shortcut. Does that happen in your hospital? So this is one of the most common and most risky behavior in the hospital. I have seen doctors end up in Philhealth Legal due to this. So doctors simply sign the forms without seeing the diagnosis. But at times it was upcased. So these are just some of the common reasons why doctors tend to be a problem in claims processing. So, adding insult to injury, many hospitals do not invest in teaching their hospitals, or rather in teaching doctors on how to do things right. So, always remember, doctors are a unique breed. They are highly technical people. So, how do you correct all of these? How do you teach doctors to properly execute Philhealth matters? So, just like common goods, you need to sell the idea to them. You need to be a salesperson. You should never demand that they should do this and they should do that. So, in my 20 years in claims processing, imposing rules may work, but for doctors, this is actually temporary. So, unfortunately, doctors are one of the most difficult customers. So, they may listen to you, but it does not mean they will follow your instructions. So, naturally, if you do not have the credibility and the expertise, doctors will not follow you. So, take note, doctors are so in love with the evidence-based approach by an expert. That is how they do things. So, if the topic is diabetes mellitus, they will listen to an expert in diabetes. If the topic is COVID-19, they will spend an hour listening to an expert on COVID-19. So, step number 1, hire a Philhealth expert who can address all their issues and concerns. So, most popular topics for them are actually rules on claims processing, professional fee, and legal problems. So, if you get a half-baked guy who pretends to know Philhealth rules and concept, be careful. You may create another problem rather than creating a solution. So, teach doctors the concepts via a series of short webinars. So, most doctors do daily endorsements or medrep coverage or scientific lectures or sessions via webinar these days. So, incorporate this on your monthly medical staff meeting. This will be quite easy for them. So the third one is reinforce lectures with daily action steps. Simplify it for them. Okay. So the doctor's best friend now is the cell phone. You may send action steps via SMS or text. You can also insert reminders on their clinical charts. So the next is include Philhealth topics on their daily endorsements. So make it fun, or do daily snippets about Philhealth, and this will actually not harm them. So if you are a hospital leader, you need to have patience. You need to gain their trust. I will tell you this, at first, nobody will follow you. But just continue, be persistent. In due time, later, they will follow you. Things will be fine. So, teach your doctors the concept of Philhealth claims and processing. Teach them the billing processes and avoid shortcut in documentation. So, the next video is all about the 3 common upcasing problems. This is Coach Doc Ben. See you in the next session.